we're gonna dive right into it. Shall we do it or what?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before going in, just gotta show appreciation and love for the shout out. Means everything and more, brother.
Hey, likewise, man. Dude, I got chills listening to you for about 30 something minutes, man. It's an out of body experience. I can spread all kinds of Malik propaganda on here. I got no problem with that.
Oh, love it. Let's roll.
Uh, let's roll, baby. Portugal and the fucking Congo, man. I don't mean to say the fucking Congo like it's some derogatory. I mean, shout out to the Congo, man. What a match that was. I know you got a lot of thoughts on it. I got some thoughts on it as well. Your thoughts are at the forefront of my mind at the moment. Dude, let's dive into the deep end here. Fucking, I want to hear all about all four matches, man. It was a great day at the World Cup. Last day of match day uno. I want to know what you had to think about all four of these matches. The floor is yours, man.
Yoan Wissa, when he returns to the Democratic Republic of Congo, will never ever have to pay for anything at all. Um, what a moment for Congo to get a draw against one of the favorites of the World Cup is extremely special. If you remember, we talked about it before any games kicked off. There was a bit of an Ebola scare in the country, and I believe you were sending a bunch of various articles about the players having to quarantine and do all of this and all of that. And, potentially their participation was a little bit in danger. And, you know, uh, we forgot about all of that as soon as kickoff got going. You had, of course, Portugal score early, but that did not um, affect Congo whatsoever. For Yohan Wissa, a guy who made the move from Brentford to Newcastle, wasn't really favored in the starting 11. Newcastle paid a good amount of money for him, and Newcastle manager Eddie Howe just said, "Hey, it doesn't matter what price point is paid for these players if they're not performing in training or in the games when they do have playing time. I have to pick the best 11." And as a result, you didn't really see much of Yohan Wissa at Newcastle this season. So for him to score in the opener against Portugal and was a big reason as to why they got their first point ever in any World Cup is extremely special. Have a day, Yohan Wissa. Um, if you saw on Instagram, a lot of people were um, just memes being memes. He looks a lot like Freddie Gibbs, that one rapper. And people were like, "Oh, Freddie Gibbs with the goal, Freddie Gibbs with the goal." It got so viral that Freddie Gibbs even reposted it and was like, "Man, like stop playing, like this is a moment for Yohan Wissa, and just very, very special for him. Shout out to Aaron Wan Bissaka. This was a guy who played at United, of course. I believe he's at West Ham now. And you kind of, when the reality is when you go from Man U to West Ham, people kind of forget about you. And when I was watching the second half there, you had the announcer literally like pay homage to him locking it down on the right side of the field. And there was a special shout out there. He did something. He was saying like, uh, "This is Juan Basaka Island" in reference to Rivas Island, of course, back in the day. Just the tackles he made, and even the other fullback, they both just had it on lock. So just a very, very special moment. And to hold Portugal to a point in their opener is electric, really. It's sensational. So, we had Congo get a point. We had Cape Verde get a point against Spain. So frankly, I mean, really the only team, that a lot of people projected as of now, of course, thus far, who knows about the remaining two match days. Um, held their own weight, minus Curacao, of course, getting 7-1 against Germany. But we'll see. We'll see as things progress. I think maybe another part of it is there's not as much film to work with. And then simultaneously, this always happens, man. Some of these bigger nations, and it's only natural to be quite honest with you, they underestimate who they're going up against. And it's a matter of too little, too late to get going and get a result out of it. And that's certainly what happened to both Portugal and Spain, without a doubt. It makes me feel that much better knowing that France's opener was against Senegal. I talked about the trickery and the complexity of that matchup yesterday, and for them to win 3-1 is extremely special. So it just goes to show you that as of now, no match has been a gimme by any stretch of the means. And let's cover Portugal now. Roberto Martinez has many things to correct, without a doubt. Starting with, I was surprised to see Pedro Neto start, and this is a guy who, of course, is a Chelsea blue through and through, and I like Pedro a lot. But with the squad depth that you do have, I was surprised to see him start for sure. No question about it. I thought his decision to pull Vitinha was extremely interesting, and it's the same thing with Cristiano over and over. He had chances. He had chances to score. He didn't put one in, and the narrative, as far as I'm concerned, whether you think it's deserving or not, will continue as to whether or not Cristiano is holding back the side. And let's all remember that ex Portugal head coach Fernando Santos, the guy who won the 2016 Euros for Portugal, managing the side, dropped Cristiano, and it was a very, very big deal. And ultimately, it led to him getting let go. But remind you, he brought in Gonzalo Ramos into the lineup, and that was the game he either scored 3 or 4 goals. So, in all honesty, man, just managing Portugal is such a headache because you have this Cristiano situation, and it's not gonna go away, it never will. So, I wanna see what he does, in their second group game against Uzbekistan, but he has many, many things to figure out, without a doubt. And we'll talk about Colombia, Uzbekistan later, but with them getting 3 points, really all they have to do now is get a draw against Portugal, and if they do, they will top the group, assuming that they beat Congo. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't think any team in that group is going to underestimate Congo. They have all of the respect in the world, and I think it will elevate both Colombia and Uzbekistan when they play them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. First of all, I'll start with the Congo as well. Dude, we kind of talked about it before the tournament. This is a pretty good Congo side, man. I know maybe they don't get as much of the love, especially in Africa. But in order to get to the World Cup, they had to beat a couple of African giants in order to make it.
Nigeria,
Uh, yeah, dude. You don't make it to a World Cup without knocking off Nigeria and get a tip of the cap. You know what I mean?
right,
Nigeria is one of the African royalty nations for sure.
right.
And you mentioned Yohan Wissa. This is a dude who's playing in the Premier League. It's not like he's some bum from that you never heard of. This is a good player. Um, I just felt like, I it's one of those interesting things, man, because I expected a lot from the Congo, so I'm not necessarily surprised. But man, at the same time with Portugal, I think you said it best. I think you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, and you don't want to overreact too much, and you don't want to speak in hyperbole a lot of the time. But I really do think it's one thing to preview a tournament, and then it's another thing to sometimes be able to watch it with your own eyes, and then you make your own conclusions. And sometimes that's the best. the best data point is just to watch something, and I just feel like when it comes to Portugal, man, they got a big like you mentioned, they got a big thing to ask themselves, like, in a lot of sports, sometimes regardless, not just football, but any sport, there's always the old adage in question of when do you and it's a multifaceted thing, like when do you turn the page from someone who's a quote unquote superstar or star or someone who makes all your money and your advertising dollars and whatnot, like in a non-international stance, like in professional sports. So many organizations struggle because they don't know when to turn the leaf and when to quote unquote move on from a certain player. You know what I mean?
Right,
Uh, and because they wanna pay respects to that player, they end up holding back the current iteration of what they have.
right.
So when we came in before the tournament, dude, you look at that Portuguese side, man, it's a great fucking team, dude.
Yeah.
They got some world-class players, but, when you watch the match, it really does feel like it's too much about Ronaldo and it's not about Portugal.
Right, right. And the difference, here's the difference. Like I said yesterday, when I was watching Argentina, Algeria, it towards the end of the game when you knew that Argentina was going to win, it felt the same way with Argentina doing that for Leo, of course. The only difference is Leo is still scoring. Cristiano now has 10 matches without a goal for Portugal, right? So if he is scoring still and he is still doing what he's supposed to do, then this isn't a conversation. The only issue is that he is not, and therein lies the problem.
Yeah, dude, I just feel like and you know what? We talk a lot about managers on here, and it's going to be a big theme in the rest of the three matches that we dive into. But, Roberto Martinez has had some issues as well. Um, I mean, man, I don't know. I saw Roberto Martinez. He said, I don't know the exact quote off the top of my head. I'll have to dive. He said something basically along the lines of, taking out Ronaldo wouldn't make any sense. And I get that. Look, Ronaldo's a great player. He's been a great player. Um, but man, I just feel like they gotta ask some question marks. Like when, it's one thing if we're not, I don't want to make it too much about Ronaldo because it's not just about Ronaldo. There's a bunch of other dudes on the team, but it just feels like everything's kind of catered towards him in a certain sense. And instead of him contributing to the rest of the team, it feels like the rest of the team is trying to contribute to him, and, he's a
Exactly,
great
exactly.
he's a great player, but, I mean, he's had his moment in the sun. He's been that guy, and they've got guys that are in the primes of their career that have the ability to take it to a next level where if he was out there and he's contributing to everybody else, I got no problem with that. But when everything is just like, oh, hey, let's get, like it's one thing like last night with Argentina and Messi, like, dude, I'm not trying to make it a Messi and Ronaldo thing because obviously there's an age gap too. Ronaldo's what, was it 3 years older?
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3, and that's a big deal. Look, Ronaldo, I know it's the Saudi league, but I mean, he scored, what was it, like 28 goals in the Saudi league? Like, look, credit where it's due. He's still, he still looks like he's in peak condition and peak physical form and whatnot. But the reality of it is that he's not, the Real Madrid Cristiano Ronaldo of, you know, the late 2010s and the early, and maybe even like but a little bit after that, like I got no problem with him playing. I got no problem with that. Like I figured he would be out there, but when you've got all these other players, you have to find a way to mesh everybody together. And it just feels like, at least in his first match against the Congo, it felt like there was a little bit of let's feed the ball into Cristiano and he's not at that same level to where he can still finish chances. It's not like he's some bum. I mean, it's not like he's still good. I'm not trying to say he doesn't he sucks or anything, but I think there's just a way in which they have to make a couple of tactical adjustments if they want to get to where they want to get to, which is a deep run at the World Cup, where you have to look at that line. I mean, dude, they got some really. I mean, dude, look at the. If we go down the list here, Rafael Leao, Bruno Fernandes, Gonçalo Ramos, João Neves, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, Nelson Semedo, Gonçalo Ramos. I mean, dude, these are Bernardo Silva. I mean, these are good fucking players, man. João Cancelo. I mean, this is a great team.
It is, and
This is,
the direct quote that you were looking for from Roberto, it is, and I quote, "It made no sense at all to take off Cristiano Ronaldo, who was the best scorer in history, off the field when we were looking for goals." Okay, I mean, fair enough. He is one of the best scorers in world football. I'm not gonna tell you no.
yeah, I mean, dude, that speaks for itself. But you know what? Also, dude, a lot of love to the Congo.
100%. Absolutely, absolutely.
So look, I think we'll see what kind of tactical adjustments they make. I know they got Uzbekistan next. I mean, you got to think that's as close to a must win of 3 points as you can possibly get. I know we'll get to Colombia, Uzbekistan, but Portugal's in some trouble. But yeah, you mentioned the Congo too. Credit to the Congo, man. They really it's a talented side. They're not it's not like they're a bunch of bums out there running around. These are some really good players. And they got a really good shot at making it out of the group stages and heading into the knockout rounds.
Definitely, definitely. I think if they get 3 points against Uzbekistan, that will happen. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, if they get 3 points, they're moving on. But
Yeah.
obviously we'll get to Uzbekistan. But before we get there, I want to get your thoughts on your boy Thomas Tuchel in that
Yeah.
England Croatia match in the Group L opener.
Today's game of the day, without a doubt. It really was. And, you know, uh, I'll be honest, I thought Tuchel made a couple of interesting decisions. First, the choice to have John Stones in over Mark Gahey, considering John Stones really hasn't played a whole lot for Man City this season. Beyond that, it was your typical England lineup. Um, Nani Madueke started over Bukayo for the sole purpose and reason that Bukayo Saka has been nursing an Achilles injury. So he wants to manage his minutes as best he can while he recovers and amps up his fitness. So I'm not going to count that. But the big decision that shook me a little bit was John Stones over Mark Gahey, and to have Konza at left back. Great to see Reese finally play for England. Um, Reese is somebody that I love so much beyond words, truly. He means everything and more to Chelsea. So to see him finally play in a big game for England and get the start is so special. And I mean, it was the Harry Kane show today along with Jude Bellingham. And let's talk about the first half to begin with. You saw at first both teams playing risk averse, trying to build possession, see what areas of the field were open to try and expose. And then after Luka Modric's unusual mistake of challenging for a ball too early and Nani Madueke being at the right place at the right time, and he gave up that penalty. By the way, just so everybody knows, Croatia's keeper did jump early, so I don't. There's no controversy with that. It it was very, very obvious as soon as you had the slow mo replay. He jumped early, so um, and like you said earlier, Harry is not going to miss two straight penalty attempts. So he didn't even try the stutter step and knocked it in the right corner with no hesitation whatsoever. After that, you saw Croatia was like, okay, like, all right, let's go score. Let's go do this thing. And they equalize. England take the lead. Croatia equalize before halftime. And after that, man, I don't know what Tuchel said, but this is that German mastermind, German evil genius, whatever you want to, whatever you want to say about Thomas Tuchel, where it was night and day, man. They came out of that second half absolutely guns blazing, and it's just Thomas Tuchel being Thomas Tuchel, man. And I just want to say, dude, I don't know what the heck he said to Jude Bellingham because the amount of running and pressing and coming back to defend that Jude did today, you didn't see that at all this season for Real Madrid, dude. You saw none of that. The guy was running hard, dude. He put in a shift and a half and he got his goal. And although, of course, Nani, left to go play to Arsenal and said some um, disrespectful things about the club who uh, brought him out of PSV and put him in the Premier League to give him some runway and spotlight. Give him credit; he was unselfish, which led to Jude scoring that goal because they were both running on the right wing of the field, and he let Jude take it, and he made the run to the center of the box, which dragged the Croatian defender out and allowed Jude more space and to be one on one to score that goal. It's stuff like that where Thomas Tuchel has that type of influence and makes everybody play their part and do their role. So to see that was just, I mean, I know who Tuchel is, man. This is what he does. It's exactly what he does. So for him to get an opening win against Croatia, that will be their toughest opponent in the group stage, of course, was great for him. And remember, there was a lot of questions about his squad selection. There was discussion about why he didn't call up Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, no Harry Maguire, stuff like that. And Tuchel doesn't sugarcoat anything. I've said that before. He will say exactly what he was thinking to leave the general public with no doubt as to what he was feeling. And they scored 4 goals, dude. And the last time that you saw in England side score more than 2 goals was not to bring up bad memories, bro, was against Iran in the 2022 World Cup. I think they bagged maybe 6 or 7 goals, even 8 against Iran. And beyond that, um, they never did that under Gareth Southgate, and that's why they brought him in. Now, definitely, I think they have to work on things on the defensive side of the ball. But when you had the English media clamor and plead to have a better style of football, you're gonna sacrifice a little bit on the defensive end. That goes without saying. However, I do think this team is capable of having clean sheets. I know Thomas Tuchel. He prioritizes defense like no other. Remember, he brought the back three in at Chelsea, and it worked wonders in that Champions League campaign, and even in the Premier League season when they were in ninth place. And even if they didn't get top four that year, they were going to be in the damn competition anyways because they won it all. But just the record that he had in Champions League without conceding a goal and the structure and the way he is crazy about all of that. So they will certainly correct it, but at the same time, just the way that they played, it has people worried, man. It's got somebody like me worried, if the time ever comes where Les Bleus and England meet in the knockout rounds. stuff of that nature. So, England, you got your wish. You got your wish. And I just wanna speak on Harry Kane because he does so much more than just scoring goals. And he, by the way, tied Gary Lineker's record for the most goals scored by an Englishman at the World Cup, tied at 10. He will surely break that. And with Harry, dude, not many of today's strikers drop back into midfield and have the passing ability and the vision that he does. There was a ball that he laid right on the money to Nani from midfield, man. Just dropped an absolute laser to Nani to allow him to break away down the right wing. And he is just I mean, the guy is just so incredible, dude. And then towards the end of the game, this is the captain of your team. He lays his body out there to block a shot towards the end of the game against Croatia today. He does so much more than scoring, and him and Tuchel worked together before at Munich, of course, so they know each other very well. And again, they got the most difficult game from the group out of the way. They got the 3 points, and they will more likely than not, top that group, and I expect a clean sheet or 2 moving forward.
Yeah, dude, I think you said it perfectly, man. One thing I want to say, man, we kind of talked about it a little bit in our previous renditions of these, like, the managers that we're getting at this World Cup are a little bit different than what we've gotten maybe in previous renditions. And part of that too, like, we talked about with the United States and the US men's national team with Pochettino, and they would have never played like that with Berhalter. I mean, dude, they would have never under Southgate, they would have never bagged 4 past Croatia. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about, man? Like, you gotta call a spade a spade. Um, you got to give all the credit in the world to Thomas Tuchel. Dude, I don't think they would have ever had a performance like that under Southgate. And you know what, dude? Credit to Croatia, man. They gave England all they could handle. That was a great match, especially in the first 40 something minutes of that match. It was spectacular. Um, but, it felt like for the first time in a major tournament that I can remember, England actually played like they had the talent of England.
Right.
And I think if you're the rest of the world, you're looking at that and you're saying, oh shit, that's what that looks like when they actually don't play like a bunch of terrorists.
Exactly.
Um, so I mean, dude, I think look, Croatia's gonna be a tough out. I think they'll make it out of the group pretty easily. Um, but man, I just couldn't help and watching that match but think like it was the perfect case study of what we talked about. But it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing to see it. And it's like, man, these guys are out here playing in a way that they've never played with the talent that they have.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Under
And shout out to
Southgate.
Marcus Rashford. He
Oh,
bagged the
dude.
goal as well.
Yeah, dude, shout out and you mentioned, like, I mean, dude, a guy like Bukayo Saka coming off the bench, I mean, most people would have been like, "Hey, Bukayo Saka's coming off the bench," but when you get to 3 points, no one's gonna say anything. It's all that
Right,
matters. And when you bag 4 against the Croatian side, that's very historically very tough to bag
yeah,
1 against, and you bag 4. And you bag 4 on match day 1 at Jerry World, all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, man, you don't wanna overreact too much," but it just goes to show you what a difference a manager can make and what a difference tactical shifts can make.
right. I agree, and
And you mentioned Harry Kane too. I mean, that dude deserves a lot of love, man. I mean, one of the best players in the world, and like you said, it's not just him bagging goals, what he's able to do in link up play, and dropping back a little bit and being able to just be a versatile player beyond just bagging goals. I mean, he deserves nothing but love and respect. Um, I'm really excited to see what England can do moving forward, and I think if you're Croatia, I think you're pretty excited too because I think if you're Croatia, you're looking at it. Hey, you know what? Match day 1, would they have loved to have maybe gotten a result? Of course they would have, but I think all things considered, the fact that they would have bagged 2. They were able to compete. I think Croatia will look at it like, hey, you know what? We got Ghana and Panama moving on, which we'll get to that right next. They got Panama on Thursday. No, sorry, not Thursday, Tuesday, and then Ghana on Saturday. Um, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this group. I think not even just in the group, but just in the sense I'm excited to see what they're able to do throughout the tournament.
Yeah, yeah. A big question for me is uh Luca didn't play to Luca's standards even at the age of 40. So I do think, of course, that goes without saying, he will play better against Ghana and Panama, but what will it look like against uh, better opposition on paper in the knockout rounds? Should they advance?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. But on the subject of that group, I do want to get your thoughts on this Ghana Panama match too, and the other Group L match. Um, I got some thoughts on it, but I'm gonna let you go first here. See what you have to say, and then I'll chime in afterwards. But I think we kind of talked about it a little bit before the tournament, but definitely something that I would love to see what you have to say about that.
I have to defer to you here
Okay,
and
I
to
appreciate
tell you
that,
the
man.
complete truth because I didn't watch a whole lot of this game, but I think it goes without a doubt that this Ghanaian side definitely miss Kudus for sure,
Oh yeah,
and Salisu.
yeah. I think what I want to get into, you and I had kind of come on here and talked about Carlos Queiroz a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think, as is the nature of the beast, sometimes you don't want to yammer along too much and go all over the place. And I know kind of come on here in the past and talked about him managing Iran for the previous three World Cups and maybe talked a little bit negatively in some light, which I think maybe doesn't fully encompass fully the full scope of how I have to feel about Carlos Quiroz. Because yes, is it true that his sides, don't look? Do they play the most aesthetically pleasing brand of football? Absolutely not. They don't. I think anybody who's watched any of his sides, whether it was in the previous three World Cups with Iran or whether it was today against Panama, I mean, look, he is who he is. It's like the old saying. I mean, I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but it's like the old saying: you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yep.
Um, and we'd come on here in the past and we talked about previous renditions of Ghana, whether it was 2010, 2014, with
Yep.
Asamoah Gyan, and they're going after it. They're attacking. They're going for it. You mentioned Senegal yesterday. Like, look, did they lose? Yeah, but they went for it. Um, Carlos Queiroz has always been a guy who's gonna play 10 behind the ball. They're gonna absorb pressure. They're not gonna really they don't want the ball. They're gonna absorb pressure. They'll take chances if and when they're there. And if they happen to get a goal, great, but they're not looking for one necessarily. They're looking to make sure you don't score a goal.
Right.
And I think you and I had kind of come on here and we talked about it where this felt like one of those matches where if there was ever going to be a match where maybe two sides might be playing towards a draw without wanting a draw, it would be this.
Yeah.
Um, and you I mean, I know statistics don't always tell the whole side of the story, but you look at it in the entire match, Ghana had 8 shots, two on target. They had 38% possession, and they completed a total of 292 passes. And that's kind of what Carlos Queiroz sides do, you know. Um, and it went exactly according to script. And I mean, they were destined for a draw, man. It was 0-0 the entire way.
Yeah.
But then at the death of the match, Ghana they get a chance. And in the fifth minute of stoppage time, right before the end of the match, they put one in the back of the net and they get 3 points.
Yeah.
Um, so I know we kind of bagged on him a little bit, but with Carlos Queiroz specifically, I do give him a little bit of love just because is it my favorite way of okay, the way I look at it is this: when it came to Iran, maybe a little bit biased. One of the common themes of this tournament has been, hey, you know what? For some of these sides, you got to play 10 behind the ball to have a chance. Like Cape Verde is a great example. Qatar was a great example. Saudi Arabia in the second half against Uruguay. I mean, you could go down the list. Like, you need to do that in order to have a chance. Selfishly, biasedly, I always felt like Iran had more attacking talent than the way that they played. So it's not that I minded that they played that way, but I just sometimes, you would have wished that maybe they would have gone for it a little bit more. But even in then, I mean, look, they came as close as you could get to make it out of the group stages in 2018, 2022. In 2014, they played Argentina about as well as you could play them defensively. And
Yeah.
it took a moment of brilliance from Lionel Messi to break the deadlock. I know a lot of people when they talk about Iran, I think maybe what gets lost in translation is I think sometimes people think that this is the first World Cup that the Iran national team has had adversity to deal with. But no, I mean, dude, 2014, 2018, and 2022, they had just as much adversity to deal with as now. Especially when you look at the sanctions, you look at the lack of investment into the national team, you look at the fact that nobody wants to play them in friendlies, which I mean, that's been the case for about over a decade now. Nobody
Yeah.
wants more than that. Nobody wants to play them. You look at the friendlies throughout the years; they don't play anybody. Um, you know, whatever Iran's able to accomplish in the future, a lot of that was built through those years when Carlos Queiroz, who was a guy who didn't need to really take his time to manage the Iran national team, but he decided to take on that task not only for one, but three World Cups and multiple Asian Cup cycles. And, did I always appreciate the way that they played? No, I didn't. And did I bag on it as recently as probably within the last 24 to 48 hours? Yes. But at the same time, that's a guy that I've always got a lot of love and respect for because he took that appointment at a time when nobody that isn't a Iranian Persian manager, nobody else that wasn't of that ethnic group would have taken that job, and he did. Um, so I give him a lot of credit for that. He put a lot into the national team. He invested a lot into it. He went to bat for the national team over many, many different cycles. Um, look, am I the biggest fan of the style of play? In a certain sense, no. It depends who we're talking about. And maybe biasly, I felt like Iran maybe had a little bit more talent than the way that they played, but maybe that's just bias. And then you look at a side like Ghana. I mean, look, it's not like these guys are, even without Kudus and these other guys, you still got a guy like Semenyo, who's a really world
Hmm.
class player. I mean,
Jordan
you go.
Ayew.
It's not like they got a bunch of scrubs out there either.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, look, at the end of the day, I'll be rooting for the guy just because he invested a lot into the national team. Um, so look, were they fully deserving of 3 points? Maybe not, to be honest with you. I think Panama will feel a bit undone. I think Panama really they did everything in their power to at least get a draw, but credit to Ghana, they were able to get a goal at the brink. But I'll always be happy for Carlos, man. Just again, despite the fact that maybe it's not my favorite style, given what he did, and given the fact that I have a special soft spot in my heart for those old Ghana sides of 12, 8 years ago, or whatever, not 8 years ago, 12 and 16 years ago. My bad. Math is not my strong suit at the moment. Um, with those previous renditions. Um, look good for Ghana, man. They got 3 points and they've given themselves a chance to be
Yeah.
able to be one of those 8 third place sides, and whether it happens or
Yeah.
not, I tip my cap.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And with Panama, they're a very difficult side to watch, man. They are. They really, really are. And I think Ghana needed the 3 points more than ever, and it wasn't. They got it done. It doesn't matter how, in this instance, especially in the World Cup where you're only guaranteed 3 games. It doesn't matter how it's done as long as it's done. That's all that matters. So credit to Ghana. I'm sure Antoine Semenyo hates the play style. This is a guy uh, who has enjoyed, the freedom and the ability to take guys on, and Pep gave him that freedom because he knows that that's Semenyo at his best. So he's he's going from that
Yeah.
to this structure under Kiros. I'm sure he hates it more than ever, but again,
Sure.
just the opportunity to represent your nation, and that supersedes anything else.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
agree.
but but yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if there was a game to not watch, I knew it was this one. So credit to you
I get you. If you had to
for watching
yeah, if
it.
you had to
You know,
I mean, like I said, I got a special spot in my heart for the Ghana side, from previous renditions, and as much as I like to bag on Carlos Queiroz, I mean, he was Iran's manager for 3 World Cups in a time where there weren't many people who weren't within, the current manager of Iran is different, but Carlos Queiroz was a guy who didn't need that. He didn't need to take the job, to be honest with you. And even in 2022,
right,
he didn't need to take the job. He took it anyways. So look, do I like the way that they played? I mean, not necessarily. Like I said, if you're Cape Verde, you got no. I mean, that's different.
right,
And credit to them, they got a result too. But uh, like you said, I don't think anyone's really going to care how they got the 3 points as long as they got the 3 points. Um, but I'll look. If I had look, I'm not a betting. I mean, okay, that's not true. But look, Ghana's gonna play England on Tuesday, and they're gonna play Croatia on Saturday. I would bet you everything that I've got that they're gonna. I mean, dude, they're gonna play all kinds of haram ball, man. They're gonna be out there, guerrilla
yeah,
warfare. I mean,
yeah.
Arsenal on steroids. Jose Mourinho will be jealous. Like they're gonna be out there. They're gonna be out there, and they're gonna do everything in their power to get a draw on either of those 2 matches. Um, so look, is a guy like Antoine Semenyo going to be happy with the way that they're playing? Perhaps not. But you know this better than I do. What the manager wants is what's going to happen. And Carlos
Right,
Queiroz is the manager, and for better or for worse, that's what Ghana have got. So we'll see how it plays out in match day 2 and 3. But they got their 3 points, whether it was fully deserved or not, and they put themselves in a position to where I guarantee you, man, the slam dunk of the tournament is they're going to have 10 behind the ball. And they'll get Thomas Partey back as well for those next 2 matches, which is a whole separate can of worms.
right,
Um, so there's a lot of unknown there. But look, if they could get a result, great. But even maybe you never know how it shakes out. Maybe they don't get blown out in either match, and maybe 3 points is enough to make it through. It might not
hmm
be, but I think they're going to be angling for just one point out of those 2 matches.
I
I
agree.
think so. That's all they want. They got their 3 points.
I agree.
If they score another goal in either of these 2 matches, it's a bonus, brother.
Right,
They might have the lowest possession figure in the history of the World Cup on either of those 2 matches. They will not have any desire to hold on to the ball any more than if they you got to think about it like this. I'll end it with this. If you have 38% possession against Panama, imagine how much of the ball they're going to have against Tuchel in England.
exactly.
You know, So I'll leave it at that. But then last match of the day, last match of day number 7, last match of match day 1 of the World Cup. Uzbekistan and Colombia. We mentioned them a little bit earlier. This match was at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. I know you and I, for different reasons, have a little bit of a soft spot for the Colombian side as well, and obviously, credit to Uzbekistan for making their well deserved debut at the World Cup. But I want to get your thoughts on this match.
The Estadio Azteca was absolutely rocking. I mean, the amount of Colombians that showed up, it just I think it made a a pretty good difference um in the game for sure to have that many of your home supporters show up and show out at the Azteca was special, without a doubt. Reminding the viewers, the listeners, that Colombia did not qualify in the last World Cup, so this was their first match in the World Cup stage in 8 years. And you have a guy like Lucho Diaz, who is in his prime, in his World Cup debut, has a goal, has an assist, gets man of the match. So special night for him. It did not come easy. I know a score of 3-1 makes it seem like it came easy, but not at all. Um, when you saw that Fabio Cannavaro is the head coach of Uzbekistan, you know this guy from his days playing. He is a World Cup champion from the '06 Italy squad, which I will forever have a sour taste in my mouth for obvious reasons. But he was there, he did it, and so you know that his team is going to be um, it's not going to be a gimme by any stretch. It took a while for Colombia to get a goal, and that goal was, I mean, incredible. From the assist to the shot, it was sensational. Uzbekistan's goal to tie it was also a great goal. It made things dicey for a long time, and then you had Luis Diaz on a breakaway there. It wasn't his best hit, but it fell through in the back of the net, and he got his goal. And then in stoppage time, beautiful ball into the box, and it's an easy header. Game, set, match, 3-1. Colombia now leads the group with 3 points. It's still early days, but here I am, sitting here and saying to myself, I should have went with my gut to have Colombia at the top of the group. But who knows what will happen with the next two games, given the way that Congo played against Portugal, and you know what type of response Portugal will have. I think, regardless, that match day 3 with Colombia and Portugal um, will decide the group. Whether that's Portugal getting a win and maybe they have the nod over goal difference, or they're both maybe tied on points, and whoever wins will top the group. So it absolutely sets up that type of stage, which is cinema, which is what the viewers want to see for that game in Miami. And it's it's early days for Colombia, but they look good. You and I, and frankly our whole group, we know that Colombia is a dark horse, and they got it done in Mexico. So match day 2, you're gonna have Portugal, Uzbekistan. You're gonna have a Portuguese side absolutely desperate to get 3 points, because they know good and damn well, if that's another draw, that it doesn't matter. I mean, that's just it's not good enough for a Portuguese side. So I think Husanov looked good out there as well. And the last group in this World Cup is shaping up to have a great storyline for the rest of the group stage.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. I think you said it best. I think I definitely, same as you. I mean, I really grappled with that Colombia top the group thing. I mean, I definitely will regret that for the rest of my life. I think I should have known better, especially knowing that match day three was going to be in Miami. And you know that, I mean, dude, if the Azteca was rocking tonight against Uzbekistan, I mean, Lord help the people in Miami, man. I mean, that place is going to be on fire on match day three with Colombia and Portugal. And shout out to my guy Pitbull, man. Mr. Dale Mami 305. International love. I think if you want some international love, you go to Miami for Portugal, Colombia in about 10 days time. If you want some international love, that's the place to be, man. I mean, holy smokes. I mean, I couldn't imagine what it would have been like to be at the Azteca tonight. I mean, that was one of the best atmospheres in match day one, regardless of where it was. They're going to be in Guadalajara against the Congo, and look, the Congo played great. Dude, the Congo are in for a different beast on match day two against Colombia with that kind of support. I mean, I know the Congo supporters were outnumbered by the Portuguese supporters today, technically. Um, but I mean, that was like a library compared to what they're gonna have on match day two with the Colombian supporters out there. I mean, you said it best, dude. That place was absolutely fucking jumping. Um, and you know what? You said it best too. I think Uzbekistan. I think it was kind of. I mean, not exactly similar, but I felt it was a little bit similar to Austria Jordan last night, where the scoreline was a bit deceiving. I mean, Uzbekistan played him pretty well. That first goal that opened up the scoring I mean, dude, it was a brilliant ball by Luis Diaz. It was an equally as great finish by Munoz. To be able to get his boot on that like that was a great finish. It took a moment of brilliance to be able to open it up. Credit to Uzbekistan. Uh, they were able to equalize it, similar to what Jordan did. But similar to that match, maybe just about a 10-minute difference in terms of when they scored. Uh, once Lucho scored that second goal, I mean, it was pretty much done and dusted. And then similar to that match as well, the third goal was in stoppage time of the second half. So maybe a bit misleading. I mean, Uzbekistan is going to be a tough out. You know, I think to be honest with you, I think Portugal are going to have their hands full in match day two against Uzbekistan as well. With the way Uzbekistan are going to be able to set up, that match will be in Houston, Texas at 10 a.m. Pacific on a Tuesday. So that's about 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday in Houston. Uh, Portugal gonna have their hands full, man. They're gonna have to wake up and make some tactical adjustments because you and I talked a lot about how, maybe in some of these matches where there might have been a draw, it was, whether it was Switzerland or Uruguay or Switzerland or Spain, they were creating a bunch of chances. Portugal
Yeah.
didn't create jack's fucking shit today, to be honest with you, outside of the goal that they scored. So Portugal's gonna have to hit the drawing board and really figure some things out because Uzbekistan's gonna be going in there thinking, "Hey, man, if we can get a point out of this and head into match day three against the Congo, they'll take their chances 10 times out of 10."
Right, right. And just on your note about the difference of venues, 1000%, man. Houston compared to Guadalajara and you're playing against Colombia. Yeah, that's a different beast.
Yeah, it's a different beast. So I think if you're Uzbekistan, you're thinking, "Hey, you know what? If we can go in there, we can muck it up, and we can." You watch that film and you see what Congo was able to do, and you take what you already do well. I think if you're Uzbekistan, you going in there, you're thinking, "Hey, man, if we get a point out of this, we give ourselves a chance." And if you're Portugal, you got to be thinking, "Well, how are we going to find a way to be able to create chances and be able to put the ball in the back of the net?" Because the last thing, if you're Portugal, that you want to do is head into match day three and you're on 2 points.
1000%, 1000%. I think in my opinion, The natural changes will be uh, Pedro Neto is out of the lineup for sure. I can't envision him starting.
So I do wanna before we wrap this up, with the look ahead to match day two starting tomorrow, or I guess you're today technically because I was you're technically 3 hours ahead at the moment. Are there any things in particular? We won't go too far ahead, obviously, because we're gonna try to come in here as close to daily as possible and be able to kind of update this. But I guess just on the surface level, looking ahead to match day two, are there any things that you're looking forward to in match day two throughout the rest of these groups that you're going to be kind of anticipating that we can kind of come in here and pinpoint throughout the rest of this next week or so?
Let's start off with the two host nations, South Korea, Mexico. I think everybody predicted that both teams will head in with 3 points when it comes to South Korea and Mexico. So that being the opening one of the opening groups, one of the opening games within the match day two of the group stage, will definitely set the tone without a doubt. How will Canada respond after getting a draw against Bosnia? And the U.S. Australia, right? Right, like we said, nobody thought Australia would have 3 points after match day two. They do, and what what version with Australia? This is what I want to see with Australia. Is it actually legit, or did Turkey just completely underestimate? And like you and I said, did Hakan Çalhanoğlu give them unnecessary bulletin board material, and the U.S. Will get the full 3 points? So that's really what I really want to see on Australia, because there's a big difference in playing in British Columbia against Turkey compared to they're playing in Lumen, right? Against
Yeah,
the
they're playing in
US.
Seattle against the US.
Okay.
Yep.
In
And
Seattle
that's going
against
to
the
be
US,
12 p.m.
where
Pacific. So that's going to be at 12 p.m. in Seattle on Friday.
right. So and mind you, Seattle, they show up and show out, dude, for the Sounders. So we're talking about the narrative that we just spoke for this game. It's gonna be rowdy in comparison to playing against Turkey and Vancouver, Canada. So let's see how things shake out there. But for the immediate future, also, I mean, since Germany's group will be on Saturday, Germany Ivory Coast, dude. What 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 is how will Germany look defensively against an Ivory Coast side? And simultaneously, can Germany take advantage of Ivory Coast's uh, clumsy display defensively? So those are the three things in the immediate future that I'm
Okay.
really looking at.
Okay. We'll touch on the ones that are a little bit further when they get a little bit closer. But I appreciate you
Yeah,
taking the time to, at least in the immediate with those matches. Dude, I'm looking forward to it, man. I know you and I will be back here many times throughout the tournament, many times afterwards. I love you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time out of your night. I know it's a little bit late for you. Taking the time to make this happen and recap day number seven, the last day of match day one of the World Cup. With the full speed ahead to match day two, we're going to be locked in every day throughout the tournament, and we'll be right back before you know it, brother.
appreciate you as always. And before we sign off, this Golden Boot race is something that I can't remember in terms of just how competitive and intense it will be. We're talking about Messi with three, Harry Kane with two, Kylian with two, Elijah Just out of New Zealand with two. So how will this look for the rest of the tournament?
Yeah, dude, and, Holland's got 2, Kai Havertz has
Holland,
got 2, Phil
yeah, yeah,
Ballardin's got 2,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
you know, a lot of yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an intense race, man, I'm looking forward to that as well. Like you said, I don't think I can recall a match day 1 where there were that many guys with 2 or more goals in a
exactly.
so it's going to be one hell of a race. And I know as great as match day 1 was, the best part is we haven't even really scratched the surface of not only what we're going to do here, but of course what's going to happen on the pitch, which will allow for this to be a lot better as well. So I can't wait for it, man. It's been a pleasure as always. Much love, my man.
Always, always, baby. Appreciate you.
Man, love you, OG. Till next time. You know what? You're in New York. They love OG out there, but you're the best OG. Don't let them forget it, baby. You got the right hand of God, too, man.
You know it, you know it.
You know it, baby. Hey, are you gonna hit the parade tomorrow or what?
No, man, no, no,
You
I
know,
got other
fucking
things
Knicks,
to
huh?
do, and it's just it's too much, man. But credit to the Knicks, and I'm no Knicks fan by any stretch of the means. So just not meant to be. And also simultaneously, bro, like where the heck am I even gonna be at? Where am I gonna go and
That's
stuff
true. I
like
mean,
that?
it's gonna be a fucking disaster, man. I get
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
But hey,
yeah.
man, stay safe out there. Have a blast. Looking forward to chopping it up very, very soon. I love you, brother.
Love you more.
Cheers. And I love you most, by the way.